Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I have a video, frankly, that I have been looking forward to creating. I've done about 80 or 85 videos now, kind of interviewed people across the real estate business, and it's been a lot of fun. In today's video, we're going to actually flip the script. I had a team reach out to me that has a tagline, "Retire with Rentals." And what they've done is they've gotten my book, they've read it, they're hosting a boot camp coming up, and they're like, "Hey, would you come talk to us?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a price of admission, right? You got to have my time, but you've got to read my book, and then you've got to interview me so we can sort of share with folks what's going on." So they did that. They did the commitment. They bought it, and we're recording this video 10 days later. So I want to welcome Tom Staub and Bobby Sharma to the show. Tom, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go to Bobby next.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Co-founder of BetterTurnkey.com with my partner, Bobby Sharma. And spot on, we do push this concept of retiring with rentals, as you have. And I myself am following your path and building my own portfolio across multiple cities. Not quite to your level, but we are on the same path. So.
And Bobby?
Yeah, likewise. So thank you, Mike. So Tom and I, we are partners. We both believe in rental properties. We believe in long-term buy and hold and creating value using rental properties, creating passive income. And of course, we read your book. We have watched you on social media, and obviously you and I have done an interview before. So we've known each other for a while, and we truly believe that, what you've done with your book to kind of crystallize the message of retiring with rentals or one rental at a time. So we truly stand behind what your book talks about.
Yeah, I think, I've been lucky enough to interview both of you. And I'm guessing it was that interview that kind of sparked you two talking on the side going, wow, we got to invite this guy to our event, which I appreciate. The other thing I want to make sure the audience feels is I've had no preparation for these questions. They've not given them to me, nor do I want them. I don't think it's authentic when the interview guest knows what's coming. So I truly have no idea. So let's see where this goes. Tom, I think you have the first question.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I want to jog your brain as much as possible, right? Because when you think about your path, I think most people that Bobby and I talk to tell us the same thing. We want to replace our W-2. We want to get out of the rat race, passive income, cash flow, and whatnot. You've done that and done it at a very fast pace, right? And some of it is good timing. Some of it's hard work and learning and whatnot. But if you had to summarize your last 10, 15 years in this real estate race, right? And I was a brand new investor coming into the game, not knowing where to start. Give me your two best tips to get started.
Okay, so two best tips. The first one is if you're going to be a buy and hold investor and follow this, retire with rentals strategy, you need to think in decades, right? There's a lot of social media and a lot of noise around real estate investing, selling the flash, the sizzle, the stacks of cash. And if you're distracted by that, you're not going to be successful, because the buy and hold rental landlord game is a game played in decades. I actually just released a video yesterday or the day before on my channel, actually showing you the timeline that I went through. In the first 6 years, it was almost it was certainly unimpressive, right? I got to 8 rental units and right around $1,500 a month passive income. Maybe that's interesting to some, but it certainly wasn't interesting to a guy who lived in the Silicon Valley, who had a 6-figure income. I couldn't do anything with that, right? It would pay, I don't know, a third of my mortgage or something. It was just not interesting. But that was after 6 years. And then, it builds and builds, and inflation and mortgage pay down and all these things occur. And then at year 10, it was more interesting, and it just explodes from there. So my first word of advice is don't be distracted and think this is weeks, months, or even years. If you're going to get in this game, do your day job and know it's going to take a decade at least. I truly believe lots of people can finish in a decade, but don't come to me 2 years later, 3 years later saying, hey, the passive income's, X hundreds or thousands of dollars. What are you telling me? No, I'm very clear. This takes time. So you need to have the right expectations going in. And then number 2 is you need to stay in the game. right? There's a lot of new investors that hear noise and nonsense in the real estate game about there being a price, the pricing crash or 2008 crash, whatever. Again, if you're in this business and you're thinking decades, does it really matter if you pay an extra 5 or 10 grand? Now, I'm not telling you to run out and do that. But what I'm saying is if you're playing this in decades, you're conservatively financed and you're thinking that way, it doesn't matter. I bought stuff all the way up to 2008 seller's market. Certainly overpaid for stuff, but again, I let the market cycle lead. So I 1031 out, as you guys both read in the books. The market cycle is real and it gives you signals so you can protect yourself. And I guess if I give you sort of a 2B, kind of cheating a little, the other one is when the market cycle gets crazy, as it did in 2008, where single family homes were overvalued. There's no reason you can't let the IRS help you, right? So we did a 1031 exchange and we saved our equity. We moved into apartment buildings. And again, I think the market gives you signals. We did 1031s for about 18 months because the market doesn't change overnight, right? It kind of gives you signs. So that's what I would tell people is think in decades, stay engaged. Don't try to time a market. You can't time a real estate market. It's just nonsense. It's not stocks, right? It's not daily valuations. And then, 2B, kind of let market cycles help you is my advice for two things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would echo that by saying I think when you talk to a lot of newer investors, what you see is this idea of I want to accomplish all this cash flow thing in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, we all do, but one, you get to make a lot of mistakes. That's just part of the process. You got to start with one, learn from that, and then grow. It's going to take, to your point, a decade or so to make it happen. So cool.
Yep.
Great. So Mike, curious. So 6 years to kind of build your first set of rental property portfolio. What do you think was the catalyst to get the growth that I've seen you rapidly started to accumulate rental properties? What happened? Was it the market? Did the prices dropped? Or tell our audience a little bit about what happened at that point.
Yep. Certainly will, Bobby. Just FYI, you went dark again. I don't know if clouds covered the sun behind you or whatever, but you're a little dark right now. But to answer your question, there you go. We can still hear your question, or I heard your question. There's really kind of two things. First and foremost, I let the market cycle help me. So we got to 8 doors, 7 properties. So it was 6 houses in a duplex. That's how you got to 8 doors and 7 properties. The market was overvalued. We had enough capital to buy the next one. Right. I was simply looking for a house. That's all I knew when I started. I have all these units now, but I was an idiot, right? I didn't know what I was doing. So I was looking for that 9th house, but my math wouldn't let me buy one because they were overvalued, right? They wouldn't cash flow. Hence I created this thing called no alligators in the book. I'll never buy an alligator property, right? If it's negative cash flow, you can pound sand. I'm not buying it, right? So that's when somebody at a local real estate meetup or one of these, workshops that you guys are hosting said, just innocently asked, have you thought about commercial properties? And I'm again an idiot, right? I'm going commercial properties. Why do I want to own an office building or a mall? What are you kidding me? And they're like, no, Michael, a commercial property means lending. And in your game, that's 5 units and above. Mind exploded. I had no idea, right? I thought apartments were owned by billionaires, right? What do I know? So I say, okay, well, no, I haven't. Let me go investigate it. And pretty soon what I found is there were apartment buildings. There was a 5-unit apartment building, one that we actually bought and talk about in the book, that we bought for $223, that rented for $3,000. When I sold a house that rented or sold for $260 or $270, that rented for $1,100. I mean, do the math, right? So we did that first 1031 exchange. We let the IRS help you. We kept our equity and we're like, wow, let's do that 7 more times. So that's what we did. That was the first explosion. We went from 8 to 80 with no new capital, which is, just think about that, right? Wow. We let the market cycle run. I believe market cycles run in variables. So when housing is expensive, apartments are cheap. When apartments are expensive, housing is cheap. They don't run in the same cycle. So just pay attention. So that was the first one. And then when the market goes on sale, which happens every 15 or 20 years, get aggressive. One of the things I read about the oil crash in Texas and the savings and loan crisis from people that were quote unquote successful was they wish they bought more. So one thing that I knew going in, if I ever was going to have a chance like that, and frankly, there was part of me that thought it would never come again, right? When I'm in 2005 and real estate's up 15%, or 2007, it's up another 12%. I'm like, this freaking Texas crash and savings and loan crash is never going to repeat itself. Wrong, right? So when they crashed, I got greedy and I figured out a way to buy as much as I could of anything that made sense. So when bank lending turned off, I found hard money. When hard money got too expensive, I went private. And then, when houses turned around because of hedge funds, there were now commercial buildings, that were in disrepair. We financed probably 40 or 50 units with zero down apartment buildings, right? Because community banks don't want apartment buildings that are in disrepair. That's not their business. So they saw what I was doing and they actually looked me up. I had a president of a commercial bank call me and meet me at his property that was next door to mine and say, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Looks like a dump." He's like, "Do you want it?" I'm like, "Maybe." Right? So we worked out a deal, zero down. He financed it. He gave me a discount on interest rates. We set up a small reserve for repairs because he was just interested to make sure it was repaired.
Right.
And we went forward. So there were kind of two critical events, nothing unique to me, that I think you just need to pay attention to. And the other thing, like I said to Tom's question, is you got to stay engaged in the market. You can't only look for deals when you have capital. Something I did, I still do today. Before this video, I was looking online and talking to a couple of different agents trying to find the next deal. You have to stay engaged, which is what you two do based on the interview that we did, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago.
And Mike, so a few things. I think it's important to know that, the idea of buying a beat up commercial property and redoing it is, I think, a lot of our dreams, right? But I would caution that it takes an incredible power team, boots on the ground. You have to know something about rehabs or estimating costs before you get into that. I would caution that. In my opinion, you start small, and then once you get to your level, yes, you buy a commercial beat up property and try to add value to it, right?
So a couple of things. So first and foremost, the only reason I was able to get those buildings is because I had a track record. There wasn't going to be a bank CEO or whatever he was, president, I think, calling me, reaching out to me if I didn't have a track record. And don't start there. And don't come into this game with this huge visions that you're going to own an apartment out of the gate. I think the Grant Cardone model of that being your first thing, man, is ridiculous. I own a bunch of Yeah, I own a bunch.
He's a sales guy. I don't think he actually, swings a hammer.
Oh yeah. I'm not getting the feeling he or his wife swing a hammer or paint a room. That's true. But again, when you're at that level, you outsource and you pay other people. But he's a marketing sales guy. Most of his message is great. I just don't like the idea of telling investors start with apartments, especially today.
Yeah, I think it's a big trap. But hey, real quick, a plug. April 27th, Better Turnkey is having a boot camp in a high-rise downtown San Francisco. Email Bobby or myself at betterturnkey.com. It's all there. We'll walk you through this process and get you started on your own roadmap. Hey, so just a few other things too that you mentioned in that message, right? When I hear investors come to us and they talk about strategy, and by the way, there's some background noise. I have a rehab crew right now in my house.
It's okay.
But they talk about strategies and whatnot. And when I hear, to your point, this idea of the alligator, the appreciation, it's in my opinion, it's a risky move because you're automatically trying to time the market. You're assuming things that you probably don't know because if you're not in that local market, if you don't know street by street, if you don't know the politicians, where the dollars are coming from, the investors, how are you to know what's to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So cash flow first, appreciation second.
Yeah. Right? Again, if we go back to, my message, right? What I kind of teach is if you really want to retire with rentals, appreciation should not be part of your calculations at all. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it happens. I've used appreciation. I 1031. I did all that stuff. I don't want to see appreciation in your upfront picture, right? I think specifically where Bobby and I are, right? San Francisco, Bay Area, all of that. The only people buying rentals today are people betting on appreciation. Phew. I saw too many people in between 2009 and 10 go bankrupt with that strategy because their hold times get longer, expensive private money or hard money. And, this place can eat you alive if you time the market wrong. I'm not about timing. I got lucky on timing a couple of times, I guess, but I don't count on it. I want to be able to hold for the long term. When I buy an asset, I want to be able to conservatively finance it and hold it regardless of what happens. Everything I financed before the peak, the reason I held on to all of them is because they were financed conservatively and I didn't care what the value was. The value could be 10% of what I paid, but as long as the cash flow and rents exceeded what I was costing me each month, I could hold until it returned. So that's, you know, please, if you're listening to my message, don't count appreciation in your upfront.
Yeah. And Bobby, last question, and then I'll pass the baton to you. So on that note, I think it's, you know, and feel free to share however much you want, but could you provide us a breakdown of your portfolio? You know, what percentage is multi-unit, single family, commercial, and if you care to, maybe show us some ROI figures or, you know, cash flow concepts.
Yeah. So I'm going to go from memory. It's actually documented in the book. I forget what page it is. But we own, we own apartment buildings ranging from 5 units to 18. So those are commercial. That probably makes up about 100 or so of our doors. Maybe it's 105, maybe it's 95. It's right around there. And then the other 70 to 80 doors are what people would call residential. So that's single family homes to fourplexes. Specifically single family homes, it's probably 45-ish single family homes. So a decent portfolio. We're doing our taxes right now. I mean, if you guys want to hear numbers, we collect over, just out of Fresno, over $1.3 million in gross rents. Was the taxes, you know, the 1099s we got from our property manager and Section 8 and on all those things. So kind of cool number. Net cash flow, as I documented in a video yesterday, is north of 20K a month. We don't need to get into specifics. It's a nice number, right? I can live on that, right? If you can't live on 20K a month, you have a spending problem, not a income problem. And then as far as ROIs and return,
you're about $100 to $150 per door.
Yeah, roughly.
Solid, right?
Yeah, some are 400 or 500, some are 75, but yeah, I mean, if you want to blend it average, yeah, right around that. Now I get to, you know, when you get to this level, right, you're into this more than a decade, as we talked earlier, Tom, you actually can start to de-risk your portfolio. What I mean by that is you can start moving equity around. So I've actually just laddered up LTV on my duplexes through quads, and I paid off all my houses. So why would I do that? Well, I want the just in case portfolio, right? Just in case Armageddon comes or whatever happens and I have to lose everything for whatever reason. I have these, you know, 40 or 45 houses all free and clear. I'm like, you know, come get these, right? So those are things you can start to play with. Again, it's not something a new investor would think about, but know that that's in your future when you build your portfolio. So yeah, it's you know, life's good.
Great. Mike, talk a little bit about, you have built great amount of equity. You own a bunch of them free and clear,
Mm-hmm.
which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about asset protection. Like, what have you done to make sure that you're protected? Obviously insurance, creating the right LLC, but talk to our audience a little bit more about what else have you done for asset protection?
Yeah. So I want to be very clear on this. I'll answer the questions because I was specifically asked what I do. I do not make recommendations on this one. I am not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I am not giving anybody legal or accounting advice. I'm simply asking, what did we do?
Yep.
So I don't want anybody to hear this video and go, well, you said blah, blah, blah. No, I'm telling you what I did. I believe asset protection, as far as being a landlord, is actually sort of like an onion with its different levels. First and foremost, it starts with doing the right things, running a good shop, running good operations, all of that, right? Don't cut corners. If you're using a property management team, make sure they're doing the right things and everything's documented and there's processes and procedures and all the stuff that you guys do for your different areas. And I'm sure will be shared at your workshop coming up in San Francisco. That's one. Step two is you need to create, kind of legal barriers or entity barriers, right? LLCs, S Corps, C Corps. Again, talk to whoever you would like to kind of get your advice because everybody's situation is different. In the beginning, we set up LLCs, a couple, to kind of divide up our portfolios. We actually had kind of a his and hers, right? Because we wanted to create two different things so they wouldn't cross-pollinate. But in the beginning, we had to buy some things in our name. So we did buy first few houses in our name and didn't move those into the LLCs until we got into apartments, which went into LLCs. So we have bought in our own name, right, in the beginning. I should at least share with that. It's not something that I tried to do or thought I did, but the only way I could get a loan, right? The LLC wasn't seasoned and the bank said no. And, sometimes you just got to go. And then the other thing that I would paramount, even if you don't do an LLC, is please, please, please get an umbrella policy. You know, you get a landlord policy on every rental. And then what I did is I got an umbrella policy on top of that, right? I was trying to create, you know, something would really bad have to happen. So after 15 years, I've had fires and insurance paid for all of that, minus the deductible. I have been sued twice. Once was kicked out immediately. The other one was we could have fought, but the way the contract was written, if I ended up paying $1 to the plaintiff, I would have had to pay the entire legal bill for the other side. So my insurance company said, let's just cut them a small check and be done with these people, even though you did nothing wrong. And again, it was stressful, but that's what insurance is for. So they took care of all of it for me after they did an interview and said, okay, what's going on? Then they did their own calculations and said, hey, it's in your best interest to cut them a 10K check or whatever it was. And we'll do that for you. You owe nothing. Sign here. I'm like, great, sign here. I'm done. So the stuff happens, right? You're in a business. It's a people business. Some people are not very nice and try to use the threat of suits and all of that to come after you. And that's why you have insurance and umbrellas and legal entities to protect you. So, and then the last thing is trusts that often go unstudied. We actually took our personal residence and a vacation home we have and put in a trust separate from everything else, right? We were like, get these away from everything. So that's everything that I remember us doing.
Oh, great.
Hey, Zuber. So, you know, I think Bobby's question is, again, another leeway to another key point, right? Which is, you hear about, you know, you hear Kiyosaki talk about this, Tom Wheelwright, you hear Marco at Narada. They often reference this idea that it's really hard to become wealthy and, you know, to your status on your own, right? So typically you got to have a team that helps you do it, whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, a rehab crew, contractor, what have you, right? So who are your, you know, top 3 people that have helped you get, you know, excluding your wife,
that's good.
happy wife, happy life, that have helped you get to where you are today?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'm glad that one came up. So again, right, give the wife full credit. We're not here today talking if she's not 100% on board, and you know that goes unsaid every single time. Thanks, honey. You did a great job. So number 1 for me, again, remembering who I am, right? Number 1's a property manager. I had to have a team property manager that would invest side by side with me, and was really part of it. And that's the hardest thing to do as a landlord. And that's what I'm excited by what you guys bring, right? The boots on the ground. Because I had to fire the first 5 property managers I had. And that's stressful, right? I'm 2.5 hours away one way. So it's a 5-hour day just to start. And so I wouldn't be here today without property managers, right? That's the number 1 thing for me. And really I outsource everything except 2 things. The only 2 things I ever want to do and still do today and did day 1 was secure capital, right? Either my W-2 job or whatever, and find deals. Those are the only 2 things that I felt I had to own. Everything else was outsourced. The bookkeeping, the contracting, the painting, the writing of offers, all that other stuff was written. I just did those 2 things because I felt those were the highest use of my very scarce time, right? I had minutes a day to put into this and thus had to find and trust other people. You know, so property manager is number 1. Number 2 are kind of real estate mentors, right? This business offers so many ways to go and so many different options. It was paramount for me to find other buy and hold people. And I was lucky enough to find a few buy and hold guys in my market. But interestingly enough, I found local real estate groups, which for me is important, right? Because I invested 2.5 hours away, and it's, you know, when real estate meetings are at 6:30, I'm not going to go there, right? Because they start at 6:30, they end at 9. I wouldn't be home till midnight. So I had to find local real estate meetups, like the stuff that you guys do in San Francisco and Fremont and all of that stuff. Those meetings were critical. 1, they keep you motivated because this business will test you. It's hard. Bad things happen. So going there and asking questions and just be around like-minded individuals just gives you a recharge. And that's important to me. So I like the local mentors. And then the other one were, depending on the market, right? In the beginning, it was my banker. But when the market turned, it was kind of real estate agents. For me, it's really 2 key people. It's property managers and it's local mentors.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, Bobby, just real quick, one quick plug. So on the notes that you mentioned, again, We have an awesome company that helps you self-manage your own doors called Hemlane. The CEO will be at our boot camp April 27th. Again, email us, betterturnkey.com. We'll give you all the details to get you going there.
Yeah, let's ask one more question because I used the free Zoom and we have 9 minutes to go. Finish that off because I'm cheap.
One last question, and then we'll talk a little bit more about our upcoming bootcamp.
Yep.
So you specifically chose a market 2.5 hours away. You saw a lot of value, and I know you and I have exchanged some emails. You know, I was in the same market about the same time.
Yep.
What would you advise new investors with technology? Is exploring out of state or out of driving distance? What would be your recommendation for new investors that are looking to invest in turnkey properties out of state?
Yeah. So what I would tell people looking to do that, and first and foremost, let's acknowledge when I started 15 years ago, turnkey wasn't really a word, right? It wasn't a thing. If it was, I certainly would have evaluated it, but either if it was there, I didn't know, right? The internet was at a different version. There wasn't YouTube. There wasn't all these other things. So if it was there, I'm sorry, I missed it. But I don't think it was. I believe people that are evaluating turnkey providers need to first and foremost get to know the principals, the owners, because that's who you're betting on. And the market second, right? And that's kind of a reverse of what people think, right? People come into this business wanting to research a market and look at population and incomes and prices. But if you're going to be investing out of state, which is totally fine, right? I've done many interviews with out of state investors. You had better double down and get to know the principals because that's who you're betting on. And most importantly, I'm not so interested as a buying a turnkey provider in the purchase. I want to know what you all are doing as far as property managers and keeping tenants happy, right? Because I'm buying something for a decade. So the fact that you guys are bringing the CEO of a property manager to your event is awesome. That gets me excited.
Yeah.
Because if I know you guys are going to charge me what you charge me and you're going to make a profit, I don't care. Yeah. I want to know you're going to protect my asset for 10 years and you're going to protect me with turnover and you're going to handle evictions and, rent increases and all of that stuff. If you're just a turnkey provider trying to sell me the latest swizzled property and don't talk to me about property managers, run away. Don't even go there. They're going to, even if they give you a deal, they're going to burn you long term.
Yep.
So that's what I would tell them. So why don't you guys, tackle your event on April 27th? I'm honored to come speak. Look forward to attending it as well all day. So go ahead, April 27th in San Francisco. Go for it.
Yeah, April 27th, Saturday, full day event. We'll probably get started at 9. We'll go probably till 4. It's really focused on providing you all the tools you need to become a better investor for out-of-state rentals or out of the Bay Area rentals. You can call them remote rentals, but we want to give you all the tools. So Mike, who's managed a lot of remote rentals, he's going to be our keynote speaker. He's going to go into in-depth details of what it takes. Tom and I obviously have been doing remote rentals for a long time, so we're going to share our knowledge. And we'd like to invite you, drop an email, Tom at betterturnkey.com or Bobby at betterturnkey.com, and we'll send you all the details. We'll be announcing that event on our meetups as well and on social media. So first of all, Mike, thank you again so much for your time. Tom, you as well. Great to connect with.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody.
Yeah, and what I'll do for everyone is I will put, it's just betterturnkey.com in the description, and I'll also put, it's just Tom at betterturnkey and then Bobby at betterturnkey.com.
Correct.
I will put both those emails in the description. Any last thing? We got 5 minutes still, Tom, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate the guest list. Zuber is going to be our headliner. He'll be there signing books, which is right behind him there. Awesome book we recently read. We have the CEO from Hemlane. We have our boots on the ground that takes care of our Southeast market. They'll be there to help you understand what they're doing in the rehabs, what their quality products are. We have a guy that's going to help you understand how to use your IRA to begin investing in real estate. We have some other guest speakers too. That awesome lineup. a lot of content there. So.
Yeah. In the end, what I'll just say, closing this out, is you can absolutely 100% retire with rentals, right? Their tagline, absolutely positive.
Right.
You need to think in decades. You need to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are motivated to help, such as Bobby and Tom. And I look forward to being there and meeting all of you. If you have the book, bring it. I'll sign it for you. Also, if you haven't already know, I like to take selfies with the book because I use them as little marketing plugs. So let's take some selfies. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Bobby and Tom.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Tom.